Welcome to Small Business, Big Network, the podcast for small business owners who want big results from their networking. I'm Liz Drury, a freelance voiceover artist who knows that if you're not working, then networking could help. Stewart Leahy is the founder of Yorkshire Powerhouse, an organisation that helps small businesses in a number of ways, including organising networking events for them. Thank you very much for being my podcast guest today, Stewart.
Oh, I'm excited about this. Let's go.
Now, Stewart, I had a little look at your LinkedIn profile before the recording, and your name on there is Stewart Powerhouse Leahy. So why Powerhouse? Is that a name given to you or one that you've given yourself?
Yes. To not answer your question accurately, it's a bit of both. So I've studied marketing for 30 years now, initially academically and then for the last 25 years as a doer. And the concept of personal branding and manipulating your personal brand to create awareness and improve your brand awareness is something that I find fascinating. And personally, when I sort of looked at putting the word powerhouse in the middle of my actual name, I just felt quite sick about it. I just thought it was awful, and that the minute I did it, I would be lambasted by people telling me what an idiot I am. And it took me ages to summon up the nerve to do it, actually. But I sort of knew I should, for all the sort of logical marketing reasons. Because the business name is Yorkshire Powerhouse.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, everyone knows that the word powerhouse is a really interesting name, and it comes with a lot of very positive connotations. And I thought, oh, damn it, I'll do it. So I stuck the powerhouse in there, and then sort of hid behind the sofa and waited for all the abuse. And no one said a word. Yeah. And you go, oh, okay, that was much more pleasant than I was expecting. And I wouldn't have even minded if I got a lot of abuse, because at the end of the day, you're still getting noticed, and that's part of the deal. So, yeah, I've stuck with it ever since. And actually, I haven't had to justify it for a little while. So it's nice to get that as a question again.
Well, I think it's a great name for you, Stuart. I think it suits you down to the ground.
Well, I have a certain reputation that is not known for meekness or shyness.
So tell me a bit more about Yorkshire Powerhouse and what the company does.
Right. The essence of it is I kind of retired from commercial existence 5 years ago. So I used to run a design and marketing agency. And I'd come to the end of my time with that, and I was very lucky. The guys that worked for me decided to buy me out rather than me selling to an external person. So I retired, and I looked at retirement and went, hang on a minute, I cannot play golf, and I'm terrible at gardening. I need something to do. And so I sort of thought about what I was capable of doing and what I perhaps would enjoy doing and what I was skilled at doing. And providing straight-talking, Yorkshire-style business advice is something I've done for a long time in a commercial capacity at that point. And you think, yeah, why not? Let's create something to try and give back a little bit to the community in Yorkshire and try and do some positivity, because I find the lack of support, especially for micro businesses and startup businesses, I get frustrated by it. And I know all the support agencies claim that they're doing their bit, but they're really not. They do very little for that community. They're interested if you're going to employ 20 people in the next 10 minutes, but beyond that, they kind of don't care about you. Whereas I do, and I think they should too. So it's, in part, it's a campaigning thing, but not a very hard one, because I don't have the heart for it. In truth, I just want to help small businesses who are looking to grow or expand themselves, or startup businesses who just want to survive is part of the deal. And I just want to help them out and share some of the stuff that I've learned over the years, and try to create a platform that helps them do the right things and avoid some of the pitfalls that, unfortunately, some of us who have been in business for a while have fallen into. Yeah. And then, where it's appropriate, introduce small businesses who need a bit of help to good quality suppliers who can support them and who specialise in supporting the SME sector. So it is there for that. It's not there for my commercial gain. It's not there for my ego. If you look at the website, you'll struggle to find my name anywhere. Although on LinkedIn, of course, I am front and centre. But on the actual website where it gets the bulk of the traffic, it's not about me. It's about helping those micro businesses just become stronger and more professional and better.
Yeah.
Because if we can do that, and if we can help a few of them just do it better, everybody gains. The whole community wins.
Yeah. Yeah. So what kinds of specific help, advice, support are you able to provide for small businesses?
Well, there's quite a few areas. So one of the most common things I find when someone's thinking of setting up a business, I'll separate it out with pre-starts and then established businesses. Mm-hmm. So if someone's a pre-start business, the most sensible thing I can do for them is to be miserable with them. And I mean that in a most positive way. The challenge you got when you set up your own business, you talk to your friends and your family and they just want to support you and tell you you're amazing and what a great idea it is. Sometimes it's not. And sometimes you need someone, and I'm willing to be that stooge, to actually say, do you know what? I think you need to work on that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Now, that advice can be nuanced. It can be that they've got a great idea, but it's in their head. And that's not good enough, because when you then want to go and get some work done, say a website designed or a logo created, or you need to talk to an accountant about supporting your business, if it's all in your head, then every time you tell it, it's going to change a little bit and it's not quite precise, mm-hmm. and you lose some of the information. It's a bit like Chinese whispers.
Yeah.
So I'm grumpy and I say, look, I don't want to do anything with you. I don't want to give you any advice unless you've actually got a written document. And they go, oh, but it's all in my head. And you go, no, it's no use in your head. It needs to be written down on paper, because the process of doing that itself is positive for you, because it makes you really think about your business.
Yeah.
And it might help you understand where there's some errors and some issues. So there's a bit of that, but then I try and help by saying, hey, let me give you a really good quality business plan template, and let me give you a cash flow forecast, and let me give you a marketing plan template, and let me give you all the tools needed to create the most incredible business plan.
Yeah.
And I do it all for free.
Yeah.
So that's step one, as it were, for me, is to try and stop people getting excited about a business when they haven't planned it properly. Mm. The same kind of logic applies to an established business that maybe is struggling to grow or is actually just struggling. If they're just struggling, let's say cash flow is a problem and they're struggling to collect payments or they're struggling to create sales, then the first question I've got for them is, have you got a written plan? Have you got it documented? Have you actually got a strategy in place? And 9 times out of 10, they haven't. In fact, it's probably 99 times out of 100 they haven't. And so, again, with my sort of miserable, grumpy Yorkshire face, I go, you got to put a plan together. You can't get yourself out of it without one, because the writing of a business plan or a business strategy is the same as putting a destination into your sat-nav. If you just drive your car without a destination and you sort of allow sat-nav to tell you where to go, you'll never get anywhere, because it's not got a destination. And the same is true of a business. You have to work out where you want to take it. Then you can create a plan and a series of actions that will get you there, and you will know if you've gone off course, so that you can make a modification and bring yourself back on course.
Yeah.
And so it's really boring, it's really grumpy, because everyone knows they should do it, but of course they don't want to do it because it's in their head. Yeah. And there's the sort of the challenge and the opportunity all in the same wrapper.
Yeah. And I think, all those things you just described, cash flow, cash, God, I'll get this right a minute. Cash flow forecast.
I think you've got my teeth.
And your business plans and so on. If you're new in business, you've never run a business before, you don't even know about that kind of stuff unless you've done business at school, which hardly anybody has.
No,
so
but also,
having someone like you to start people off in the right direction is brilliant.
Yeah, but I've again, you've got me. You're ticking all my frustration boxes. I think business studies should be taught as a compulsory thing. Because if you teach business studies, by the very virtue of that, you're teaching numeracy and literacy and thoughtful process and planning, and it's such an all-encompassing subject. You are also right that unless you've been taught how to run a business, it's not a natural thing because we're not taught it. And one of the great questions I get people ring me up and they're really nervous, and I go, hi, how can I help? And they go, oh look, I'm trying to do a business plan. I go, brilliant, I'm delighted that you're doing the plan. That's the most important bit. And they go, what's a SWOT analysis? Now, a SWOT analysis is a really basic thing: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Yeah.
And when you understand it and you put it into the matrix and you just draw it all up, it makes perfect sense. But if no one's ever bothered to explain that to you, and you've not got a template to fill in, it makes absolutely no sense when you just come across the thing that says, where's your SWOT analysis?
Yeah.
And it could be as simple as that, or it could be as complex as, a brilliant error I made in my very first business, which I'm going back, oh my Lord, 30 odd years now. I did what I thought was a cash flow analysis or forecast. I put it all together. I was very pleased with myself. I was the new entrepreneur on the scene. I was going to take the world by storm, and I was very lucky. I sat down with someone who was much more clever than I was, and he said, "It's all very nice, but you haven't allowed for VAT." And I went, "What?" And he says, "Well, you haven't allowed for the flow of VAT because in theory, every 3 months you're going to have to analyse your books, work out how much VAT you've collected, how much VAT you've spent, and pay the difference to HMRC, and you haven't allowed for it." And I felt like a prize chump because I just knew instantly that I knew nothing about cash flow forecasting. And I learned a lot that day, and I've learned ever since. You never stop learning.
Yeah. Now, I know that one of the things you have as part of the Yorkshire Powerhouse is your directory. So who's in it? What kind of businesses? Are they all in Yorkshire? Tell me about that.
They have to have an interest in Yorkshire or they're not allowed in. So that's the first thing. Because when I was putting the whole project together, I sort of recognised there had to be a geographic boundary, and the UK was too big.
Yeah.
And Huddersfield was too small, where I live, and I'm going, what do I make the boundary? Do I make it West Yorkshire? Do I make it the whole of Yorkshire? And I picked the whole of Yorkshire, being it's a really big region. It's got hundreds of thousands of businesses in it, so therefore it's got all the volume you could ever need. But it's still constrained by geography in that I can get anywhere in Yorkshire within 2 hours, and that's fine. So the principle of the directory is I want quality people in there who are there and able to help serve SME businesses, small and medium-sized enterprises, with whatever it is they might need. So it's mainly made up of what I call the service sector. So accountants, solicitors, graphic designers, web designers, business coaches, consultants, that kind of thing. And the people that are in it, in principle, pay a small contribution to the project. And that contribution is what funds the marketing that I do. So I spend thousands of pounds a month on Google pay-per-click to drive the traffic onto the site, to distribute the help and support that we can offer. So it's a very virtuous circle. And as a result, on every page of the site, when someone visits, on the left-hand side is the content, and on the right-hand side, there are listees from the directory shown randomly. And the idea is you just never know who you're going to see. So I'm looking at my homepage at the minute. I've got a consultant who deals with ISO certification. I've got a debt collector. I've got someone who deals with equity release. I've got a networking organisation. They're all there, and they're all promoting their services and providing their services to the visitors of the site. So I do a little bit of quality control. So when someone submits their listing to the site, I do check them out and I make sure that they're credible, because we don't want unreputable organisations being represented on the site. We've got a quality standard that we want to work with. So we check people out. We make sure that we like what they do and we feel that they're credible. And then we promote the heck out of them. And therein is the economic engine to provide the marketing of the site.
Yeah. Brilliant. I know one of the other things that you do is networking. I think you and
Yeah.
I met at a 4 networking meeting,
Oh,
actually.
we did. Yeah, years ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago now, wasn't it?
Mm.
In the days before.
Yeah, face-to-face networking
That's
when
right.
we weren't all digitally connected. Yeah. Well, the thing is, with COVID, networking changed. And there are a lot of people, and I'm going to call them old school, who believe that face-to-face is best.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of I've got one boot in that camp. Face-to-face networking, where you get 20 or 30 people to meet in a room, and you all shake hands, and you all share a coffee, and you all tell each other what you do, it's a lovely thing. And then, of course, COVID came along, and it said, no, you can't do that anymore, because it's a super spreader event. And for all the right reasons, face-to-face networking had to stop.
Yeah.
Now, frustratingly, I had just started offering face-to-face networking that I call Powerhouse networking for all the obvious reasons. And I just started offering it 3 months before COVID. And you're going, oh, for heaven's sake. So I had to very quickly think what I wanted to do with the networking. And I took a view on it and went, oh, do you know what? There's this online thing called Zoom that I'd never come across or never used prior to that point. And I thought, let's have a look at it and work it out. And I'm an old school networker. So I'm, especially 2 years ago, when the COVID thing started coming about, I was definitely an old school networker that absolutely believed the only way you could do it was face to face.
Yeah.
And I looked at Zoom and I went, this is really interesting. And then I looked at what other people were doing in Zoom. And I found it fascinating because a lot of them were doing it really badly. Because they'd simply taken their normal script for an in-the-room face-to-face meeting and shoved it onto a digital platform. And of course it doesn't work. It's an entirely different sort of way of people communicating with each other. And the challenge with Zoom networking is you get 20 or 30 faces on your screen, but you can't all talk at the same time because you crash the audio.
Yeah.
And so you have to go, it's not the same. And if it's not the same, you have to think it through from the beginning again and start over. So that's what I did. And I created a whole new script and a whole new agenda and a whole new way of doing it. And essentially what we've ended up with is a very tight 1 hour session where we get 20 or 30 people together. And within an hour, everybody gets to do a 1 minute presentation of their business to each other.
Yeah.
2 people get to do 5 minute educational slots on top of their 1 minute elevator pitch. So we get 2 educational speakers who provide business educational content of some sort or business advice of some sort. And we even have a 3 minute tea break halfway through because the reality of Zoom networking is it's ever so easy to be distracted because a notifications come up on your computer to say you've got an email. And so I put a 3 minute tea break in to say, hey, look, just stay in the room for 30 minutes because in 30 minutes time, you can go and check your emails and kick the dog or homeschool the children or whatever else you've got to do. But so you get 3 minutes to then not be in the meeting before we then come back and do the second half of the session. And I've found that format, keep it short, keep it sharp, keep it really simple. And then at the end of the meeting, just share an attendance list with everyone who's been there with their name and their contact URL for LinkedIn. So I always use LinkedIn as the sort of central platform for it. It's turned into a really clean format, and actually to the point now where I'm under pressure to revert to face-to-face meetings from some old schoolers, and I'm going, I'm not sure I want to.
Yeah.
I'm not sure there's a colossal benefit to going to old school networking. There's a lot of downsides of the face-to-face. Everyone's got to sit in a car for an hour to get somewhere.
Yeah.
You lose all that time, you lose all that frustration. You've then got to sit in a car to get back to wherever you're going next. And it's a very inefficient way of networking a business, whereas Zoom is a really brilliant way of in 1 hour meeting 20 or 30 people, getting to know them a little bit, and then connecting to them afterwards and having a great time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a convert.
So your networking events, are they just for people in Yorkshire or for people who do business in Yorkshire?
Yes. I've done it again. In a way, they have to have an interest in Yorkshire. So again, I don't have if they're vaguely local, that's the kind of point of it.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in someone in London coming networking at one of my meetings unless they have a legitimate reason to be in Yorkshire. So I am trying to keep the Yorkshireness of it, because that's the sort of catch that I've got, as it were. That's my brand, is Yorkshireness. So I want to keep that. So if I get a booking and I see an address that isn't in Yorkshire, if it's near Yorkshire, you let it go. But if it's miles away from Yorkshire, the first thing I do is I pick the phone up and I say, "What's your interest in Yorkshire?
Yeah.
Just tell me why you want to come to a Yorkshire Powerhouse networking meeting." And as long as there's a good reason, then I allow them in. If they can't give me a good reason, I just very politely decline them and give them the money back, because I want the Yorkshireness to come through.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've been to a few of your meetings, and I'm in North Lincolnshire, but let's not talk about that.
we squeeze you in accordingly.
I'm just over the border. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
So
What
I've noticed is what I've noticed from the meetings that I've been to. You've got some people who are like your core membership who are there all the time. What do you think they're getting out of it that makes them want to keep coming time and time again?
I've got to be careful what I say. Right. I'm not quite going to answer your question in the way you want me to. One thing I do from time to time, I do a 2-hour session where I do a little bit of just consultancy with people, or coaching. And I either do it on marketing as a theory, a marketing strategy, or I do it on networking. And the networking one of the messages that I try to get across in that is that networking works when you do it regularly.
Yeah.
If you come once in a blue moon, and literally it's once in a blue moon, you aren't going to pick up the word of mouth referrals that you actually really want. The regulars have worked it out and gone, I know I've got to be in that room every single time, or as frequently as I can, because I'm going to become an established person and I'm going to be recognised. And let's say that I'm an accountant and I'm there all the time as an accountant, and I'm talking about reducing your tax and improving your profits. Then the second someone who's come across me and sees me on a regular basis goes, "Do you know what? I think I'm paying too much tax. I'll have a word with Stewart." Mm-hmm. And that's how networking works.
Yeah.
It is not generally a short-term game. It is a long-term, slow, deliberate process that takes that repetition and that brand building for it to have any effect. If you look at other networking models, they all try to encourage that. So you look at BNI, the biggest network in the world. When you join a BNI group, you have to be in that meeting every single week. Yeah. You're not allowed to miss. If you're going to miss one because you're on holiday, you have to send someone in your place. They're really strict about it. And that's for all the right reasons, because they recognise that if you're not a regular, you're going to lose some of the benefit of your membership. Yeah. So and it's their model. I don't work that way, but they do, and good on them for doing so. They're kind of forcing their members to absolutely be at every single meeting. Now, the difference that I'm offering is there's no membership.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it for commercial gain, so therefore I'm not trying to take an upfront fee. I don't charge hundreds of pounds just for you to join. You only pay for a meeting that you attend, and it's as simple as that. So if you book on and you pay your fee, and it's like £5 or £10 depending on whether you're in the directory or not, and you pay your fee, you come network and you get a list at the end, and then it's up to you to do with what you will. There's no upfront fee, there's no ongoing commitment, and so I like that, because what I end up with is a nice mix of people, some of whom are there at every meeting, many of whom are frequently at the meetings, and many of whom have never been before, have only been once in a blue moon. And so you get a really interesting mix of people because of that.
Yeah. And how often do you hold them, Stuart?
Fortnightly. So I alternate between a Thursday and a Friday to try and keep them as inclusive and accessible as I can. So in 1 month, I do one Thursday meeting and, roughly speaking, 2 weeks apart, one Friday meeting.
Yeah.
And that's how it rolls. And it's just very steady and very calm, and we just try and keep a nice regular flow of meetings.
So if people want to come and try out a meeting, where do they find you, Stuart?
So they can either come via the Yorkshire Powerhouse website, which is yorkshirepowerhouse.com, or there is a dedicated website for the networking, which is powerhousenetworking.co.uk. Nearly got it wrong there. So, yeah, and that's it. Either way, you'll come across the message about Powerhouse Networking, and when you click on the link, you'll find all the information you could need.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Stuart, and best of luck with Powerhouse Networking going forward. It seems to have gone from strength to strength since you started it, and I'm sure it's going to continue to do so.
No, that's very kind of you, Liz, and it's always lovely when you can make it as well. The meetings are better when people are in them.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, the more we can drive them, the more everybody gets out of them, and that's the whole point of the meetings.
Lovely. Thank you, Stuart.
Lovely to chat. Thanks, Liz.
Thanks for listening to Small Business, Big Network. If you found this podcast useful, please do rate, review and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with the rest of your network too.